I know that many of you are going to say that prisoners have no rights. As Lance Tapley, a prison rights journalist, once said, it's true that prisoners don't have the same rights as we do, but they are still entitled to human rights. You must remember that many of those in jail right now have been convicted of no crime. They are there awaiting trial. Because of the prison system we now have, anyone locked up is subjected to inhumane treatment at the whim of the prison administration without due process. First, you're going to hear from James Schatz, representative from Blue Hill, about a bill he is sponsoring to limit the use of solitary confinement. Now, solitary confinement is described under some conditions as torture by the United Nations. Later, we'll hear from members of the Coalition Against the Abuse of Solitary Confinement about what they hope to do.
Hi, my name is Jim Schatz. I represent District 37. I live in Blue Hill and represent 6 towns on the Blue Hill Peninsula. And I'm sponsoring a bill that would limit and or perhaps even eliminate the use of solitary confinement in the Maine state prison system. And I think that what we're looking for, in addition to maybe the ultimate elimination, would be to provide due process to any people who are brought into that setting, so that we're certain that their health and their safety is being cared for when they're in that type of confinement. Secondly, I think we want to examine the appropriateness of that type of confinement and as it aids in the rehabilitation or the treatment of people in the prison system. So I think if we can address this and get some action, I'd be pleased to see this as a first step in improving our prison system.
My name is Bart Marks. I'm a mental health consultant with the various county jails for the last 15-20 years. My primary work is with the mentally ill incarcerated in jail. It's obvious to me that with the increasing number of mentally ill in jails, there's a myriad of problems that arise. Primarily, the length of incarceration for the mentally ill tends to be greater than the non-mentally ill offender. There's very little in the way of resources for diversion. If somebody in jail is mentally ill, it's quite possible, because of their mental illness, they could be doubly punished. By that I mean they could be incarcerated longer because of their mental illness, in conjunction with their alleged crime. This is an ongoing problem. What makes it even more of a problem is that the mentally ill in jails are not treated as if they need to have special needs. The jails themselves are overcrowded. The classification system doesn't enable, because of lack of space, a mental health unit. A mental health unit would be ideal, but that hasn't developed at this point. I think it's very doable that a mental health unit could be in a jail where the existing mental health people plus the community mental health support could be provided, as well as the medical unit. At this point right now, it's a growing problem, never-ending problem.
Brianna Twofoot, organizer for the Maine Civil Liberties Union, offered the MCLU support in an organizational capacity. She described some of the specifics of what she might be able to do. If you are able to fit into that plan somewhere, please contact the MCLU. Their website is www.mclu.org.
In terms of what we've talked about in our office and what we hope to contribute, and again, because we're new at the table, I'd like pushback or feedback on if this doesn't make sense, but in a public education / organizing perspective, we have a list of people that we think would be helpful to testify at the hearing, different perspectives, either from prisoners, if there are supportive law enforcement that could testify, I think that's helpful. And then the religious argument is usually a compelling one when you're talking about these issues. So in thinking about getting those people to testify, I haven't thought very clearly about how to get testimony from prisoners. Someone suggested having letters that prisoners had written while in solitary confinement. I think that's fantastic. If there were letters that, you know, would be ready to go as written testimony, that's really compelling for a legislator to read. For the religious perspective, we worked with NRCAT we worked very closely with, we have worked closely with NRCAT on the torture issue as it relates to Guantanamo. So I have a good relationship with their director, Rich Kilmer. I'd be happy to reach out and make sure that that connection is made. I also work pretty frequently with Jill Saxby at the Maine Council of Churches. So we're thinking a lot about who are the religious people that, you know, could provide that voice to this conversation and having them available to testify at the hearing. The flip public education side is maybe organizing something like forums or panels in key places in the state, maybe legislators in the districts for legislators on the Criminal Justice Committee that we know need to be moved, and having a conversation with a religious person, maybe someone who has been in solitary at some point in their life and can speak to it, maybe someone a supportive law enforcement person, so that the public has an opportunity to come to a conversation about the issue. And then, of course, doing media work around those forums so that whatever message is at the panels also can get to the public through the media and hopefully get coverage that way. So that's what the support that I can provide. If there's any thoughts on that or pushback, or if there's something that's missing that you think that we should help with, you know, I feel like most of the people in this room probably have jobs during the week, and you're doing this on your own time on a volunteer basis. I get paid to do this 40, you know, however many hours a week that I need to. So I'm happy to be supportive in whatever way I can.
I'm very happy with the way this meeting went, which has launched the Maine Coalition against the abuse of solitary confinement, because even in the selection of the name of the coalition, we were focused, and it means that we can talk about the abuses of solitary confinement, which we want to end, and it means that we can organize in ways that we haven't been able to organize before. We know that it's going to be a long struggle, that we're going to be introducing people to stories that they don't want to hear about abuse that's happening in our hometowns, against our brothers and cousins and uncles. It's not happening against those people out there. It's happening to us. So I'm hopeful.
My name is Isabel Trowadek, and I live in Rockland. I'm a nursing student. I just got accepted into school in Lewiston, and I'm interested in the health of people that are incarcerated and the health care or the lack of that they receive. For a few months I've been researching different stories of people in the state of Maine and around the country who suffer from different illnesses and ailments, particularly diabetes, hepatitis, HIV, and AIDS. And what I've come across is that for the most part, because the prison system is for profit, they claim that there's no money to give and they have a lack of staff to treat illnesses. So people are often just given Tylenol, whether they have gangrene from untreated diabetes or they're suffering from a heart attack or schizophrenia. They're often just given aspirin or Tylenol. Oftentimes people are stuck in segregation or isolation or solitary, as it's called, with severe illnesses, and often people have died in prison because they've been left untreated, and I just find that vile and disgusting. And I want to use my role, my education as a nurse, to work with incarcerated people and to deliver a kind of health care that is compassionate and competent, and that actually helps them to live and to come out of that system more whole and more healthy than when they came in.
Wells Staley Mays spoke about hope. It's young people like Isabel who are the best hope we have. Kindness and compassion like hers will be what pulls our tumultuous world back together. Once that happens, perhaps we will all begin to enjoy human rights.